All right. Welcome to another episode of the Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode 75, NFC North Week 18 review and playoff preview, plus special guest Bob Angelo, NFL Films legend and developer of Hard Knocks. Lots to get to this week. And, first of all, thanks for joining us again, Dale from AvgCheese. Where can everyone find you as we get started?
You can find us on Twitter at AvgCheese. You can find us on the internet, www.avgcheese.com.
And unfortunately in the playoffs.
And happily in the playoffs, yes.
And Craig, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, I'm at dailynorseman.com, and you can find me on Twitter at GA_Skol.
Not in the playoffs, thankfully.
Not in the playoffs. You'll find me deep in the mock drafts.
Yes, I'm about there too. So, and welcome back, Shelby. Where can everyone find you?
Shelby, SHELBY, Tweten, TWETEN, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
All that fun stuff. And our special guest, definitely want to welcome Bob Angelo, NFL Films legend and developer of Hard Knocks. Thanks for joining us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well tonight. How are you folks?
Great. Well, could be
better, right?
Could be better.
Lions fans and Packers fans are okay right now.
Yes.
That's true. And Seventh Letter, hopefully, will be joining us a little bit later. We're going to get into some of the games reaction. Definitely want to get into some of your thoughts, Bob, on the games, officiating, and in all of that as well. And then also dive into some of the stories and of legends and events from NFC North teams as well that everyone has questions for you here on the in the group as well. So I just want to get right into it, and I'm going to give you this one to start, Dale. Packers.
You're right where we belong, Andy. Right where we belong.
Packers beat my Bears. Give us a little breakdown of how Packers beat the Bears for the 10th time in a row to claim that final playoff spot at Lambeau, 17-9. Hand out some helmet stickers.
Do you really want to relive this? First of all, I mean, we can go on to somebody else.
No. Yes, let it all out. Let it all out.
Well, I was at the game. So
you were at the game.
Yes. My daughter bought me tickets for Christmas. It was pretty cool. Game balls. Aaron Jones pushes this team forward. Without Aaron Jones, this team isn't the same. A.J. Dillon can't do the things that Aaron Jones can do. Patrick Taylor certainly can't. He just plays at a different speed and at a different quickness. He sees things that A.J. Dillon can't see. He sees things that Patrick Taylor can't see. 3 games in a row with 100 yards rushing against the best defense in the NFL as of the week before with the Bears. And Jordan Love played like a veteran, not a first-year starter in this game.
He didn't punt at all. At all.
No. No.
Brutal. Just brutal.
It was not brutal, but right. I mean, and on defense, I mean, I don't want to talk the whole time, but on defense too, we rushed the quarterback. We rushed Justin Fields correctly, for lack of a better term. You see the Packers a lot of times, they run their outside linebackers so wide and they leave these gigantic holes between the guard and the tackle, and even the worst, running quarterbacks can run through that. In this weekend, they pushed the pocket forward, and there was really nowhere for Justin Fields to go. They didn't rush above the quarterback. You know what I mean? They just kept pushing that pocket. And when there's a guy in your face, it's difficult to throw the football. And
defensive coordinators call that containment. The football term for it is contain. And when you have a rushing quarterback, the idea first, if you're that edge, the person who's got to set the edge, you got to contain the quarterback and then collapse the pocket if you can do that. But containment is the key, and you're right. With running quarterbacks, if you don't do that, you're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say too, and I sent this in our group chat, personnel matters. In some of those plays, Luke Getsy was trying to be a little bit too cute, and, just the personnel that he was having there, it just I mean, it just was upsetting as a Bears fan to see that, just in a rivalry game. And I want to ask you, Bob, a little bit, because obviously, being on the sideline of these games, I mean, how many Bears Packers games have you, been on the sideline for?
I'm going to say in the course of my career, 850 or 860 games, probably about 10 or 12. Mm-hmm. I remember one championship game where help me with this one, because I'm going vague on the specifics, but I'm pretty sure that Chicago's quarterback, the guy who came from Denver,
Cutler, my favorite quarterback.
Yeah. Boy, he was an unlikable character in person, but I'm pretty sure he got hurt and spent the second half standing on the sideline.
Yeah.
That's the one I remember the most, because that was a cold day. And I didn't expect that from him. I thought that, this guy had a lot of moxie. He had a great arm. I mean, just a live arm, big live arm. And I thought that he would find a way to get back out there. And as I recall, he did not. And I want to say that the Bears lost by a touchdown. And it was in Soldier Field. And that's the one I remember the most. I mean, there were quite a few others where I was present, but I don't remember a whole lot about the game. I was present for one or more of Aaron Rodgers' wins, and he tended to own the Bears. But of course, one has to appreciate the nature of the rivalry. It's the oldest rivalry in the NFL. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong again, but I believe those two teams have played each other more than any other two teams in NFL history. Mm-hmm. And of course, the 1923, 25 Bears and Packers have nothing to do with the 2023 Bears and Packers. But the fact that, the history has recorded all of these events, and folks who, follow teams in the NFC are keenly aware of when these games are going to take place, and they look forward to them. And I enjoy being part of that, especially because I tagged along with the Vikings for so many years, and I was part of a lot of Vikings Bears events. And I respect the history. I love the history. I mean, it's what keeps football fans of my age tuned in. It's what keeps them buying books, and what keeps them, learning where red zone is and how to watch it. But the whole thing about rivalries is of interest to me, because again, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and in the 1960s, when I was growing up, the Pittsburgh Steelers stunk. They were horrible. They never won anything. They played for one divisional title in 1963, chance to beat the New York Giants last week of the season, advanced to the NFL title game, and lost the game, of course, to New York. And the rest of the decade, they just had losing seasons, one after another. And to see the evolution of that. But again, the Pittsburgh Steelers of the 1970s, the team that dominated that decade, they don't know anything about the 2023 Pittsburgh Steelers. And when I watch that team play now, I think, oh my goodness. Terry Bradshaw was quoted recently. Someone said, "How do you think your 1970 Steelers would do against Mike Tomlin's team?" He said, "We'd win a close game." And what do you mean a close game? He said, "Well, we're all over 70 years old now." I've heard that joke reframed before, but it was great to hear it, because, Terry still has that little twinkle in his eye and can get that across. But, I look at, again, I look at modern teams, look at the teams I grew up watching and grew up learning how to shoot with, in the 70s and 80s. And the game's a totally different game today, and teams still bear the same names, though. And I like that. I mean, I like the history. I think a lot of people do.
Well, speaking of history, the Vikings are history now as well. Shelby, what happened in the Week 18 game? Pass out some blame.
I mean, we haven't had a quarterback for 50% of this season. Like, when I stepped away, because I was obviously very upset, it's been a tough season as a fan. But, like, what do we really expect? We've went through it was Kirk, then it was Hall, then it was Dobbs, then it was Mullins, then it was Hall, then it was Dobbs. Like, so many different things. There hasn't even been a moment other than those 3 games where Dobbs was like the consistent starter that the rest of the team has even, or the rest of the offense has had anything to really build around. It was cool seeing, JJ come back and being able to put up those crazy numbers even with Mullins. And I think that we were actually really driving, but those turnovers, it's like Mullins, when he doesn't turn over the ball, he really be slinging it. Like, he slings it. And I know the announcers always compare him to Brett Favre. They're like, oh, he doesn't care if he's going to throw an interception. I'm like, well, let's maybe try to not do that. But I mean,
yeah, to be a game manager sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that it was a fun game. I wanted it to be a fight, which we ended up getting for the most part. I think I'm just looking towards next season. The Lions are good. I said last year, that our last podcast last year and the first of this year, that I thought the Lions were going to be the team to beat. I've stood by that, and it's cool watching them. But yeah, I mean, it's I feel pain, but it is what it is.
Well, it sounded like in the background we had a medical attention needed, and obviously that works with the Vikings quarterbacks. I mean, Craig, has that been the only issue that you've seen this year as the Vikings kind of limp to the?
No,
the
I
end
mean,
here?
you started the first third of this season where everybody was dropping the ball. Turnovers killed them. So when they had Kirk, they were 1-4 at the beginning of the season, and that was killing them. And then when they started turning around, Kirk goes down, and obviously they had pretty much no hope since then. I mean, Mullins is Favre if Favre had an average arm. He tries to squeeze it in the window, and he just doesn't have the arm to get it there, and it's so bad. I mean, Justin Jefferson just saves him on so many throws where it's high and behind him, and he just makes these incredible catches. I mean, the team. I think if they had Kirk, I think they'd be making a run at this division. I still think they would have had 10, 11 wins. I mean, they weren't that far away. It's frustrating because a lot of those guys contracts are up, right? Danielle Hunter's up, Kirk Cousins is up, and so you don't know what it's going to look like right now, and you don't know if the team's going to commit back to Kirk. But man, I would really love to see a healthy Kirk Cousins with this team this year, with the second year of Kevin O'Connell, and to make that run. And it's really frustrating as a fan to see that, and now not even knowing, like, oh, I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan. I don't think he's the greatest quarterback in the world, but he's good enough to win. And
I was saying,
it's
Bob,
so frustrating to see it.
Bob, you're a fan of Kevin O'Connell.
I am. I like what I saw this year. When I would communicate with Bob Hagan, Vikings former media relations exec, during Sunday telecasts, I'm of course watching it on Red Zone or watching it here in South Jersey. I like the way the guy does business. He competent, very competent, understands offensive football, knows when to take chances, and I think teams respect that. To your point, Shelby, got your name right?
Yeah.
Quarterbacks. When they brought in the young man who started out in Pittsburgh, I think it was his third team just this season. I mean, you have to know there's a reason for that. Great quarterbacks don't play on 3 different teams in any given year. I mean, so Dobbs wound up with what he usually does, a month, and then he just disappears. But what he did was he allowed the Viking skill players to show what they can do. The Vikings have a good group of skilled players. They have 2 good offensive tackles when they're both healthy on the field. The tight end was a phenomenon. I think he came from Detroit.
Yeah.
What great hands the dude has. And
Did you hear that?
I
Did
love
you hear
it.
that 7th letter?
What a great look. I mean, he's just a really good football player. And I loved Addison. I mean, every time he would do something, I'd turn to my wife and I'd sing Alexander Addison. His name is Alexander Addison, from the Broadway play. But they should have made the postseason. without a starting quarterback for most of the season, it's a lot to ask for. But as a Viking fan, as a long-suffering Vikings fan, I wanted to see them get there. I thought that 3 teams from the NFC North could get there. The one team that I didn't really give much of a chance to start the season was, Chicago. And
but they almost got there. They could have got
Chicago shut me up at the end of the year. I love the way that guy did business. I loved how Justin Fields stepped into the role and said, hey, I'm still going to run. And as I said earlier, if you don't contain teams with good running quarterbacks, they're going to beat you. I said to somebody earlier in the year when I was doing book promotion, a running quarterback will never win a Super Bowl. Well, I'm about to get shut down on that one too, because Lamar Jackson right now looks like not only the MVP, but the quarterback of the best total team in the NFL. And this could be the year. Now, Lamar has evolved. He is throwing the ball on time, accurately this season, better than I've ever seen him do it. And the fact that he's focusing downfield before he pulls it down and runs, but he can still pull it down and go. I love that about Fields. But with the Vikings, how many quarterbacks? 5 different starters at, the same, 4 guys, but over the entire course of the season, I think 5 different starting quarterbacks. That's hard. I mean, that's really hard to maintain any consistency. I just wrote my blog today. I haven't published it yet for this week, but the Packers have had 3 quarterbacks in 3 generations? Because I'm looking at Jordan Love and I'm thinking, this guy's a real deal. Earlier in the season, kind of gave up on him too soon. Now, the guy looks like the real damn deal. And, and so, but Kirk Cousins, I can count the number of important games that Kirk has won on national television after Thanksgiving on about one hand. And with all due respect to Kirk, he looked as if he was going to have a much more consistent season that he might be able to extend into December and January this year until he got hurt. That was unfortunate. It was a non-contact injury. Those are the kind that make you sick.
So I wanted to ask you too, as we're talking about quarterbacks, right? And we talked a little bit about Fields, and obviously, you having the experience of being, down on the field and close to the officials and all that. And we talked about this beforehand a little bit as well about, some of the players that maybe, cry a little bit more, complain a little bit more.
Cry Brady in New England. Yeah.
Yes. Cry Brady. And obviously, Justin Fields has gotten hit a lot this year. Mm-hmm. He's a running quarterback, but he's gotten, 0 calls. It's changed a little bit, but did you see, when you were, a part of games that close, did you see, that interaction between player and, officiate, the officials, and maybe it affect how the officials called some of the plays?
Absolutely. Running quarterbacks don't get the same breaks that pocket passers do.
Not at all. You're right.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but black running quarterbacks get even less consideration. Mm-hmm. Mike Vick used to get pounded.
Yes.
Just pounded. And I would think to myself, all right, I know the guy's done some bad things. I mean, no one likes to talk about, dogs fighting and killing each other, and that's just horrible. But when he came back, I noticed how many times I'd see him take a late hit and think, come on, you were standing right there, Mr. Umpire, throw the damn flag. Guy tried to take his damn head off. He only weighs about $198. Michael was never that big a guy, maybe 205 at that's what they listed him at on the program, but I doubt that he hit 200 pounds at the end of the season. And I see that happening now with Justin Fields and with Lamar. Mm-hmm. Dobbs took a couple of shots that I thought should have been called. But, and this is in an era where the target for quarterback is below the neck and above the, above the groin, basically, although you're allowed to hit in the thighs. But anything below the knees, you're going to get flagged. Anything touch your quarterback's head with a slap. And I go back to when I watched Joe Green one day just bury his cage in Dan Pastorini's face. And, Pastorini's ears had to be ringing for 3 weeks after that hit. But that was part of the game back then. It's not anymore. I understand it. trying to keep the premier leaders of the offenses on the field. I get that. So many of them get hurt anyway, hurt their fingers, non-contact injuries. They pull Achilles tendons, on 4 plays after, bragging about their gurus and how special they are. Crap. Quarterbacks are going to get hurt. They're targets. They still have targets on their backs, not on their faces, not on their heads, not on their knees, not on their ankles. But, they still have targets on them. And, defenses know if we can limit this guy's effectiveness, we have a much better chance of winning the game. And it does seem to happen a lot more often with young men who pull the ball down and run. And a lot of them happen to be African-American players.
Yep.
So, one team that maybe has had a target on their back the entire season has been the Detroit Lions. So, seventh letter, tell us a little bit about, what happened this past weekend, and hand out some helmet stickers for the win over the Vikings.
We were kind of subbing people in and out the game a lot, like trying to, keep them healthy, and still lost a few. So I think a lot of people got hurt. Khalif Raymond got hurt. Brian Branch got hurt. Sam Laporta got hurt. A couple of guys. So
Laporta's a stud.
Yes, he is. He's better than Hawkinson.
He's a great football player. He's a great football player.
You'll see. He blocks. Your boy don't block. But I don't think that the Vikings had enough to really, do anything with us. Like they blitzed Jared Goff the first time and he tore him apart. You blitz him again, same thing happens. So that's all they had. They don't have enough on defense. The Vikings are in a little bit of trouble. They have a lot of talent on the offense, but defensively, it's a lot of holes. In the secondary, you lost 2. You lost your other pass rusher. What's the guy? Walden.
Wadham.
DJ Wadham. Ass off this year, real good. He messed his ACL up against us the first game. It's y'all got a lot.
But Byron Murphy Jr. played the last 3 weeks. There's a lot of guys missing.
Yeah, a lot of people down. So, y'all better watch out because the Bears got a lot of money. They got a defense now. It's gonna be a hard trade for you guys next year because you got to pay a lot of people.
If they're worried about the Bears, then it's not really a season worth worrying about. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, because they kept Eberflus. They kept Eberflus. Still,
I mean, coaching matters, right? I mean,
very much so.
And even like with the Lions, obviously, it's the Lions coach was panned right away because of how he approached his interview and everything, first press conference and everything. But it's proving that he has really the players like him, and he is going to go for it. And have a coach that's gonna, basically, make sure that your team, if something sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought here, but basically, he's not Getsy. Sorry, I'm just kind of I'm trying to think of a good way to say. Something.
If I'm an NFL player, I don't know how can you possibly not like Dan Campbell?
Yes. Okay.
I mean, I loved when they held Dallas. Dallas scored less than 30 points in very few games this year, but especially at home. And the Lions, they scored 20, 21 points in that game?
20 to 19.
Yeah. And when he went for it, I'm here to win the game. I don't want to extend this thing any longer than it has to be. I'm going for the number 2 seed right now, and I'm going to win it right now, and he did.
Right.
And I'm still not sure what the hell's went on with the officials there. I get the impression that the tackle Decker kind of deliberately didn't reveal himself. I don't think he made it quite clear. I'm a receiver on this play. Mm-hmm. A group of people approached that referee. The game in Dallas, crowd loud, noise. Everyone realizes this is it. This is the end of the game right here, right now. If they make it, they win. If they don't, and great play call. Great play So how can you not
Mhm,
respect
mhm.
a guy that puts your team in a position to win that game, lock up the number 2 seed, and not only did they get it the first time, but they should have gotten it the third time. I think Micah jumped off sides on the second one, gave a third shot, and then all he had to do was just put that ball up about that.
Yep, a little bit higher. Yep.
And it goes right into the end zone. And 2 seed, Cowboys are the 3 seed, which is what I was rooting for, basically. I mean, Shelby, I'm with you. For the season, I was lecturing at Penn State. I had a class of sports journalism students, and they asked me, a couple of the people were from the Midwest, and they said, what do you think about the NFC North this year? Without hesitation, I said Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And they are the best team in the division. They have the deepest roster. I think their rookie class is going to be pretty impressive, and it was. I especially, because Laporta tore Penn State a new a-hole. And I went to Penn State, and I root for the Lions, but I looked at him, and I said, whoa, there's a pro. I didn't think he was going to set, reception records, came real close to setting the all-time touchdown record for tight ends. Had he not gotten hurt, I think he might have done it.
Yeah, I think so, too.
But he's a stud. And that safety who we were talking about who got hurt,
Brian.
He's a young stud. And, Aiden Hutchinson has got a lot of bravado and not a lot of numbers to show for it yet, but he's getting better with each passing week. And he's somebody you can build a defense around, I think.
Yeah.
And, I didn't hesitate. I said the Lions. And, I had the Packers a distant third, really. I figured the Vikings would fit into that second slot.
Did you?
I didn't count on Kirk getting hurt, but, I looked at the skill players on the Vikings and thought, yeah, they've got a shot. Like I said, I mean, the Bears were the team I kind of minimized early on, and early on they played that way. But then all of a sudden, when Justin Fields got his stride, and the talk of Eberflus getting fired, is that his name? Did I say that right?
Eberflus, yep.
Eberflus, the talk of him getting fired subsided, and suddenly the defense is playing well. They were a tough out at the end of the year. I mean,
I was going to say that like coaching matters, and what happened with Eberflus, and he started to come on, and this is him without a defensive coordinator. They have issues. They had to fire his defensive coordinator because of other HR issues, and so he did well. But when you talk of like a coaching staff, I want a coaching staff that's not afraid of the moment, and that's probably been the big thing with Eberflus. And we talked about quarterbacks and. As a coach, speaking up for your players. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. Did you see that when you were kind of on the field where some coaches were better at speaking up for their players and some just kind of, were afraid of that part in that moment?
I did. But the best example I saw of that was Chuck Nolan, Pittsburgh. Chuck never had to speak up for his players because his players spoke up for each other and themselves. If you mess with Joe Green, you were going to get a batch of crap, or with Lambert or with Mel Blount. 3 different types of personalities, but 3 guys who, you want to have beside you when you're going to war. And so Chuck didn't have to do any of that stuff. Now, the guys who are constantly whining and complaining, I don't, they wear me out too, and I'm not going to name names, but we all know who those people are. The ones who just kind of, fold their hands like this and stand inside their hoodies and scare the crap out of officials. We see what happens when guys like this lose quarterbacks like Brady. All of a sudden, they're not so badass anymore, But yeah, I did see some of that, and it's a good thing sometimes when a quarterback will stand up and say, "Hey," like Sam White did once. Esiason threw a touchdown pass that beat the Eagles. Here we had Sam White wired, and the official came over and said, "Hey, my quarterback got clubbed in the head and the neck right there. He's going to be okay, but it is a penalty." That was Sam's way of doing it. With a little subtlety, as opposed to just Cry Brady. It's like a point guard driving the lane and putting it up and turning and looking for the foul. Brady, every time you if you spoke to him badly, hey, Tom, screw you. Whoa, flag. I mean, that gets out of hand. Protect yourselves. Take care of yourself. Good teams have veteran leadership who take care of their quarterbacks, and they take care of their key players, and they do it themselves. They police each other in the locker room, and they will police the sidelines. They'll go after officials and say, "What the blankety blank, blankety blank." Coaches don't have to storm the field and throw red flags and things. I'm not saying it was a better time. I'm just saying there's a time and a place for it. Yeah, I did see some of it. I respected the coaches who knew how to do it diplomatically and understood. Hey, come on, you saw what I saw. Our guy just got clubbed. That's a penalty. Throw your flag. It's not in your pocket for you to blow your nose in. Pull it out, throw it. So there.
Absolutely.
Sit there.
Before we move on to the games, Shelby or Craig, did you have anything you wanted to ask for about past Viking coaches or players that Bob maybe interacted with?
I have a long history with Dennis.
Yeah.
What's
Denny
your favorite
Green,
memory?
always.
Yeah, Denny was. I loved him. He understood the importance of publicity in a small market like Minnesota, and St. Paul, or Minneapolis and St. Paul, and Denny. He had PR director in him. He understood how to take advantage of it, not just for his team's sake, but for himself. I mean, Denny knew how to promote himself, and plus he was a damn good coach. I mean, the guys after that I got along with well enough. I knew Mike Zimmer very well before he came to Minneapolis. And I really thought he had a great team in the mid-20 teens. I mean, the 2016 team, 17, 16, 15, 16, 17, those teams, when they were playing outdoors at the University of Minnesota. I mean, I shot that game with the Seahawks where the kicker from Florida.
Blair Walsh.
Blair Walsh.
Oh. and
that was today.
I was standing. I was standing right there shooting Mike, expecting the best reaction of all time, and all of it. Mike just had this expression on his face, and then finally, he just. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah,
we curse here. Yes.
All the time,
yeah. Mike was looking down toward the end zone, and I couldn't read his expression, and it finally just said, "Are you shitting me?" And that's when I realized. Now, another Vikings game, the fourth in the season with the pass to Stephon Diggs. I was right there in front of that. Mm-hmm. And Stephon caught that ball right in front of me. And all I could think of was, get out of bounds, get out of bounds, get out. And then I panned with him, and I had to step around that radio guy. He's always down on the field getting in the way. Former punter. Help me out here. Vikings guys, girls.
Oh, yeah, the former punter.
Longwell? No,
the former. He always gives the kind of sermony thing before the game, and Greg Coleman. I had to step around Greg to follow Stephon, and then when I saw that there was nobody down there, I just kept. I said, "Go, run!" And that time, after I got that shot, I turned and I looked, and Mike Zimmer and Bob Hagan were standing there, and they couldn't control themselves. They were looking all around for a flag, and I said, "There's no flag, guys. I mean, the officials left the field already." And wow, that was a great moment. I mean, that's
incredible.
That was my next third from last game that I ever shot, and what a beautiful way for my tenure in Minneapolis to end with that moment. Unfortunately, they came to Philly and got their clocks cleaned.
Yeah, I actually think that was one of Mike Zimmer's worst jobs after that game. It seemed like at the press conferences, he was almost celebrating like he had won the Super Bowl. And then get the next week, and it didn't seem like they were that quite focused enough. And one of my most frustrating things with Zimmer is like, man, you had to celebrate that night, but the next day you had to be like, okay, get back in the office. We're not finished. We need to get to the Super Bowl. Yeah. And and I think what they did, that was my most frustration I think I've ever had with a coach that had a great team, and I think they just didn't quite have that focus they needed in that NFC Championship.
And that was one of the best defenses I've ever seen in the NFL. That team allowed lowest third down conversion percentage in history and things like that. And if you'll recall, the game where they where that play occurred, they limited Drew Brees, I think, to 12 passing yards in the first half. It was some anemic figure like that. And then Brees tore him up in the second half.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the end. That was kind of the end of that Viking defense. They never really recovered from what Brees did to them in that second half, because the next week, Nick Foles did it.
Smoked them. No.
And I remember Doug Peterson, who was a member of my golf club here for a while when he was coaching the Eagles, said we wanted to get that big safety from Notre Dame turned around to see how he could play with his back to the line of scrimmage, talking about Harrison Smith. And sure enough, I mean, they got Harrison turned around that day, and, not so good. When he's coming forward, he was tremendous. When he was menacing the line of scrimmage, faking blitzes, sometimes coming, sometimes not, dropping into coverage, he was a really effective safety. But when he got turned around, he was just like everybody else when their backs to the line of scrimmage, at the mercy of the ball in the air and what the receiver does with it. And then one other thing about this year's Vikings, poor Justin Jefferson. My goodness, what a talent. What an incredible talent. And just nobody to throw him the ball.
Yeah, poor guy.
Yet he still is only the third receiver to put up over 1,000 yards in 10 games or less. So imagine if he actually had a quarterback to throw to him.
Like Justin Fields?
Well, I don't think that if we're talking about throwing.
You still like Justin Fields after Sunday, Andy? For real?
I do. I'm still on the Justin Fields train.
Like after
he's gonna ride for his man.
Did you see the pass that he threw to I think it was Milton? You saw that pass?
Did you see the soft? Did you see the soft coverage?
Like, have you ever seen Justin Fields do something like that? Ever?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just drop it in there between two people, like ever? Never.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Never in your life. Never.
He's dropped it in the breadbasket. Just no one wants to see it.
Oh God.
Speaking of a game that no one wants to see on Sunday, the Wildcard playoffs. Dale, give us a path to the Packers beating their former coach McCarthy on the road in Dallas this Sunday.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game for the Packers to win, right? It has to be a track meet. And I don't think the Packers can win a track meet either, because Dallas's offense is that good, right? I don't see the ball has to bounce in the Packers' direction a bunch of times in this game. They got to turn Dallas over. They can't turn the ball over. They have to play a perfect football game against Dallas to beat them. That's a really good football team. I mean, as much as I'd love to be the homer and say, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, Jordan Love has to bleed perfectly. Aaron Jones has to go over 100 yards rushing like he did last week, and they got to turn him over. I think it's really that simple, and I don't think they're going to win as much as I'd love to say they are. I don't think the Packers win this game.
I think they have a chance to win.
No, you don't, son of butter.
There's many reasons I love you.
I hate the Cowboys, and I truly just don't believe that they are good at home. But I saw how to beat them. Yeah, we did lose, and I saw a lot. No,
I'm saying the Cowboys haven't lost at home.
That they did. In theory.
You guys are not the Packers.
In theory, but I'm just liking the way Jordan Love, like the speed that the ball comes out when he gets confident. Yo, listen, it's a lot of people when they get hot streaks. When Jordan Love get hot, it's looking like Aaron Rodgers. It's crazy. He got hot on y'all last week, Andy. Like when he get hot, it gets crazy.
Well, when the defense sits back and it kind of allows him, and that was my issue with Eberflus, and like in some of their wins and some of the winning streak, they were pressuring, they were doing some different things, but they did not learn from week one. They just kind of let Jordan Love, or they let him get comfortable, and yes, I mean he gets that ball out, and defensively, I feel like even some of the defensive players said that they played a little bit too far off, and they needed to take chances, and like this was our Super Bowl, but they didn't do that, and that's been my problem with the coaching is taking those chances, and that's why I like the Lions coaching. It seems like they take the chances that maybe Eberflus, he just wasn't ready for the moment. This was the moment. Now maybe he knew that. Okay, well. he was going to get another shot because of how well the team has played down the stretch. But I am willing to admit that Jordan Love, he has something. I'm just not quite there yet, and maybe that's the fandom in me. But I think when I look at this game, I want to ask you, Bob, as well, like, because I've never been a fan of McCarthy, and I was actually a little bit sad when the Packers fired him. What do you know of Mike McCarthy, and are you a fan of kind of what he does, with the Cowboys, or even what he did with the Packers?
I'm a big fan of Mike's. I got to know him when he was a quarterback coach before he became a head coach, and always liked him. Got along with him well. He's capable of making bad decisions on game day.
Mm-hmm.
That one where 2 weeks ago, he did he call a timeout or allow his quarterback to throw an incomplete pass?
Yeah.
In a situation,
booty ass did that. Dak Prescott did that. He should have took the sack or something.
Yeah,
but he threw it out of bounds.
The Lions shouldn't have even had another run to begin with on that last drive.
Right.
Yeah,
I got the ball back.
Yeah.
Or with less time, you know what I mean? With no timeouts. We had one timeout, I think. We would have had to use a timeout.
Right. And that's what he should have done, I think, there. But that's second guessing. That's one decision he did not make late in the contest. He had faith in Dak, and Dakota hasn't let him down at home all year. Now, talking about the outcome of the game, when I wrote my blog today, I said, congratulations, Coach LaFleur, a remarkable job this season with what you've got, but you're still a draft away. I don't think you have enough quality defensive players to outscore the Cowboys. I just don't think you're going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to hold Dallas. I mean, Dak and CeeDee Lamb right now, that's the best pitch and catch combination in the league. I mean, they're not running the ball that well, and they're not stopping the run that well, but they don't have to. They're piling up points at home, and they get ahead of teams and then just turn loose their pass rushers. Their pass rushers just get upfield. They have almost no run responsibility at all. Contain isn't an issue. And Micah Parsons is a force, as is is it DeMarco Lawrence? Is that his name?
Marcus Lawrence, yeah.
DeMarcus Lawrence. Those two guys together, my goodness. The dude they lost is going to hurt them down the road, I think, in San Francisco. But I just, with all due respect to the great season the Packers had, and with Love, I mean, I think, again, he's a generational guy. He's going to be around for a decade. He's going to be the Packers quarterback, barring catastrophic injury. I think he's it's Favre and then Rodgers and now Love. And he appears to be
Don't do it. Don't do it.
He appears to be that guy.
11 interceptions, 10 touchdowns.
He did. Oh, yeah, quite a few.
Last 5 games.
Yeah.
Playing his ass off.
Yeah. And he's been running all year. I mean, he's been scrambling and forced from the pocket and fleeing for his life all year and still putting up, lately in the last 2 months, a lot of great passes.
Yeah. He has the second most touchdowns in the league.
That's what I'm saying.
It's crazy.
Is Jair Alexander playing?
I don't know. I don't
put
know.
Him on CD. Make him follow CeeDee Lamb.
Well, Jair's not going to go
be able to stop him, but you'll be able to contain him a little bit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because Jair Alexander is talented. I don't care. I'll take him. He's a hard-headed motherfucker, but I'll take him. You know what I mean?
He's not going to be doing enough many coin tosses anytime soon.
Yeah, don't send him out. Yeah, tell him to sit back in that part. But if you put him on CeeDee Lamb, if you can kind of contain him, Dallas can't run the ball. And in the playoffs, one-dimensional football don't work. They've been doing it in the regular season, beating a whole bunch of nobodies all year. We ain't had nobody that can play cornerback on my team at all. Nobody can play corner on my team. So, yeah, he'll kill us, but I think
I don't know that any cornerback in football can cover CeeDee Lamb by himself an entire game. I just don't see that guy out there.
But the Packers don't do that anyway. The Packers will not let Jair follow CeeDee Lamb all over the field. They just don't do it for whatever reason. Yeah. I think that's the best way to defend him, too. Yep. I mean, you might as well put your best guy and their best guy and see what happens. Right. But the Packers don't do that. They pick a side, and that's where they're at for the most part. So I would love to see the Packers do that, but it ain't going to happen.
Do they play mainly man, or are they a zone match?
Well, they played more man recently, but they played a lot of soft zone throughout this entire season, and they got burned left and right. And it's a really strange transformation in the last couple of games because I don't recognize this defense. It's changed so much in the last 2 weeks that I just don't get it. They're playing more man than they have, but they'll still drop in the zone from time to time.
Huh.
Yeah,
I would say. Go ahead.
When they shut down Justin Jefferson last year in the second game, they were playing zone a lot against him. It was Jair, but they had a safety over the top, and they were bracketing him. And they have the talent enough to do that. But I just think that Cowboys that offense is so damn good right now. I mean, I think the two teams in the NFC that have a chance are the Cowboys and the 49ers. So I don't see the Packers having a chance in this game. I think it's going to be a double-digit win. It's funny because I have to admit I've been wrong on Jordan Love. I thought he was a crap quarterback coming into the season, and the first half I was feeling pretty good about that, and then the second half of the season, man, he's playing just as good as anybody in the league. But I don't think they have the guys to score with Dallas. I mean, I said a few weeks ago I think they have some good receivers in Green Bay, but there's nobody like a high-end receiver. It's a bunch of really above-average receivers, but there's not one that's like, oh my God, you have to stop him. Watson's never healthy, and they're just not gonna be able to score with Dallas, especially at home in that stadium. They're gonna get a few. Well, Green Bay always seems to get a few calls, so I guess it's a battle of who the refs like more, Dallas or Green Bay. But that'll be interesting to see.
Didn't y'all beat Dallas last year?
The Packers beat Dallas last year?
Yes.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I've been hearing online too.
when we were rolling. Yeah, when we were rolling. Yeah, on our chance to make the playoffs. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. I think the Bears have a better defense than the Cowboys got.
That was they're playing like this last year though.
Y'all see you're really like blinded by like Micah Parsons and the sacks and all that. Like they can't stop the run. They can't stop the run. Their corners can get burnt. So you have a chance. You have a chance. Is Watson playing?
I don't know. He practiced most of the week last week, and then he didn't play. So I'm not sure what's going on there. If he had a setback or something last week.
Y'all got a chance. Y'all got a very good chance. I don't know. I believe that. I believe that.
Are you picking the Packers 7th letter?
I hate the Cowboys so fucking.
Worse than the Raiders? Worse than the Raiders?
I hate the Cowboys, man. Like, and I can't wait to feel their tears on my they couldn't even look me in my eye 2 weeks ago because they know what happened.
I gotta say, I think the most delectable game of the weekend is Detroit hosting the LA Rams. I mean, what a storyline. Shakespearean storyline.
Scripted.
They cast they send the quarterback to LA, wins a Super Bowl, and now he's coming back. And Goff didn't even make the Pro Bowl games this year. I mean, the Lions had the second best pass offense in football. I mean, I just wrote my blog today. I'm familiar with these stats, and I look at that game and I think, whoa, last team with the ball wins, maybe.
For sure.
I mean, I think that Detroit's going to score. I think the Rams are going to score too. I mean, the Rams have great receivers. I mean, Puka Nacua is a wow. Brigham Young, never heard of him, and what a season that he had. And then the running back from Notre Dame all of a sudden looks unstoppable. I mean, and they beginning of the season, I read so many things and heard so many things from so many people, and the consensus was they mortgaged their future to win that Super Bowl 56, and they don't have anything left. Well, guess what? They had a damn good draft and had a great season. Hell, the guys and girl on Good Morning Football think that the Rams might be one of those teams that just walks through the playoffs and suddenly is in the championship game. And what a game that would be, the Rams and the 49ers. What game. I mean, but I don't know that the Rams are going to get past the Lions this week. I mean, I I'm a fan of Dan Campbell. I'm a fan of that team. I like the way he does business. And I think Goff is thinking, this is my chance to prove that they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show them, you guys made a mistake with me.
You know, we almost beat the Super Bowl Rams when we played them the first year.
Yeah.
But your guys' secondary is going to need to be like, I mean, Jefferson ran all over you guys last week, and Puka had just beat the record. Like,
well,
I think
he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not CD Lamb.
Right. It is going to be. It is going to be like he said. It's going to be whoever scores last. I think it's really going to be a shootout.
I already had my nightmare 2 nights ago with Stafford going down for the game-winning drive on me. So I don't think usually when I have those type of dreams, like
neither defense in this game is going to win the game. I think.
Right.
I think it's going to be who's got the ball last and who can pile up points early. Detroit's going to take field goals when they can this time around. They will take some points.
You're going to have to prove that to me.
They're going to need some points.
My boy crazy. My boy was going for 2-point conversions on the 7th.
I've never seen someone crazy.
You heard what he said? He said, yo, we practice red zone all week.
Yeah. Short yardage, goal line, and red zone. You work on it, you may as well use it.
Oh, my man is crazy.
And I like it. And his
I
team.
like it too, man. I like it when it works. But when it don't work, oh, my God.
It's that situation you see all the time where great call. Yeah, if it works.
If it works.
Doesn't.
Right.
What a dumbass call. What the heck were you thinking,
So
the idea was there, but...
Seventh letter, are they going to have to rely on Montgomery? Like, is that going to the running game? Is that going to help?
I think we're going to have to run the ball. Definitely. Yeah. I don't like that's the only way Jared Goff is good. Play action.
All your skill players are hurt.
You know what I mean? Play action football. That's what he got to play.
And I like that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was saying that all your skill players seemed to went down last week. I mean, it seemed like every other play there was a skill player going down. Yeah. And so that's all.
Only one's hurt.
Really hurt is going to be Laporta.
Has an outside shot of playing. So he got the same injury that Kelsey had at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
So, he's young too, man. You gotta respect that, that mutant young, that 22-year-old joints and knees and stuff. They
he can't play though. That's a huge loss. I mean, I think that could be a difference maker too. I think that without Laporta, I mean, he's so good. He's such a great pass catcher and a blocker, like you said. But he's gonna be great to be with Micah Parsons out there. You really need him out there blocking for you as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just pass catching, and I think that's really that might be the difference in this game.
Well, I think Brock Wright playing. Brock Wright.
I'm sorry, I'm
he's
not
pretty
Micah
good.
Parsons. I don't know what about that.
Brock Wright is a good blocker.
Team, but
we'll be all right.
And so Detroit's offensive designs and play calls, plus their offensive line. I mean, Sewell can play. Ragnow can play. Ragnow can play. I mean, they run more powers and traps and old school stuff. They run more of that stuff, and which makes play action that much more effective. Mm-hmm. When you've got a tackle who can pull the way Sewell comes across the back of the formation and wham blocks out, I mean that's great stuff. And it makes the play action go. And like you said, Goff, when he puts his hand without the ball, in Montgomery's belly and in the rookie's name,
Jahmyr Gibbs.
He's special. I mean, the two of those guys, Laporta, Gibbs, both scored 10 touchdowns. That's the first NFL team ever to have two rookies score 10 or more touchdowns ever. I mean, the league's been around since 1933. I hear a baby crying.
It's my cat.
It's gonna be some of the Packers
I thought
fans crying.
Maybe your baby didn't like what I said about the Lions.
Well,
no, he's a hater.
What I was going to say, this game could go two ways. And, when we looked at the Thanksgiving game, like, I feel like the Lions, like, it was kind of like that was supposed to be their moment. And the Packers came in, they were injured and they didn't, for whatever reason, the Lions just came out flat and it was gone. It was done quickly. I mean, does that worry you about kind of, this is a big moment and maybe these players being a little bit too hyped? at all? Seventh
I
letter.
think we lost our. I think all of our emotional energy left our bodies after coming back on y'all the week before. It was a short week. A lot of things came into place. I think we underestimated the Packers because we kind of handled them pretty easily on Monday night that time. So I think we underestimated them. And Jordan Love again was just he went in the God mode that game. Like even from the start, that first touchdown to Reed, it was like, oh man, this is gonna be a long day. If he got confidence to throw that ball, Jesus Christ! It just the first play. The deep joint to Watson, like, oh my God.
And didn't the Lions have a game like that last year, late in the season, where after piling up a number of wins, they just had a week where they went flat?
The Panthers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, same thing this year, except I think it happened on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, in the middle of the seation, when Jared Goff had that little turnover spree, like 3 games in a row, he had like 3 bad games straight.
Yeah.
Where he was turning the ball over a lot. Like, that was the middle of the season, and then he kind of corrected it later on. And then kind of threw 2 interceptions against the Cowboys too. Well, but I think it's a playoff game. I think he's kind of revved up for this one. The team I think we'll play okay. I don't want them to underestimate the Rams, even though they don't have, Odell anymore. Cooper Kupp isn't the same Cooper Kupp that he was before. Don't underestimate Nakua because he isn't Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? Like they'll scheme him open. That's one thing about McVay. He's a genius when it comes to scheming people open. And
Puka's tough too. Puka, you watch him like he's not DJ Moore, right? But
oh Lord,
oh gosh, here we go.
He's better.
Puka, I mean, he fights for that extra yard, and like he's got that kind of grit. I mean, I went to Lions training camp, and that was the tagline, grit. And I think that's what this team has, and that's why I was surprised in that game and in some of the other games. I do hope the Lions do well this game, and hopefully they will beat the Rams, but it's going to be tough.
They're champs, man. They got champion. They got people over there that play with a lot of pride. They got the best defensive play on earth. You know what I mean? Over there, I don't care. He only had 8 sacks this year, but they got a rookie that had 9 sacks. So I mean, up front they're pretty good against with the pass rush. But I do think given this, I mean they did play the Ravens tough. I think they had a lot of games that were winnable games. The Giants almost beat them.
They beat the Ravens. They beat the damn Ravens.
If
that tight end catches that ball over the middle, he catches that ball. Because they were on their way for the game-winning field goal, and that dude, after having a great day, dropped that ball.
Yeah.
And on the next play, they punted and back, gone, game over.
Yeah.
And the Rams are just standing around like, what the F just happened? We beat you guys. You guys know we beat you.
Yeah.
Now we're losing. We're leaving here with a loss.
Yeah.
That was a tough one, but they swallowed it and they've fought back.
Yeah.
They've made the playoffs. They're in the tournament now, and McVay and Stafford have done this before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have done this before. This is Campbell, and now Goff has done this before, but he didn't. He didn't fare that well in his Super Bowl event.
Mm-hmm.
And this is his second chance at it. And I picked the Lions. I picked the Lions because I think, home team is worth something. I think the Lions got that shitty game out of their system early this year. And I think they will be on guard for, let's not go out flat. Let's not let McVay run us off the field here and get down 13 smoke. Right. And now all of a sudden we're playing catch up and Goff has to throw the ball, more than we want him to, et cetera, et cetera. So but I think the Lions can win that one. I really do.
As we kind of close your 7th letter, any Lions specific questions to Bob as far as like who's he's interacted with that you are interested in?
Oh, sure. Have you ever did a game with Wayne Fonts?
Oh yeah.
On the sideline.
Wayne was fun. Wayne was a lot of fun. Wayne, you could hear Wayne from wherever he were on the field. I mean, his voice was carried, and he had that great accent, and he just had life and spirit and energy. And I think he talked a little too much when he was an assistant. And I think that got that kind of went away as he became a head coach and realized, I can't. I'm not trying to convince players to be good anymore. I'm trying to run a football team.
Right.
When he was a position coach, when he was working his way up in the ranks, Wayne was a trip. I enjoyed being around him. Positive energy. Good dude.
Yeah. You got
Good
any
dude.
Barry Sanders footage?
Barry, I didn't really interact with him much. I never shot one of those big games, one of those 200-yard games or one of those games where Barry had a run where people would, look at it over and over again and say, look at this. Casillas has turned around, doesn't even know where the hell he is. He just ran by him. I never got any of those opportunities. Simply because the Lions, while Barry was there, the Lions weren't that good, and I tended to go to games that mattered. I would,
shit! Whoa!
The Lions didn't claim any A games, and and the thing about Barry too that people forget is Barry put his quarterback in 2nd and 14 a lot.
Yeah,
trying to hit a home run. He lost over 1,100 yards in his career, and people forget that. But 2nd and 4, I played quarterback. Thanks a lot. You're supposed to hit this hole here. Thanks. Now it's second. You got to play for me here in 2nd and 21 because I don't have one. You got one.
I often thought about that with Adrian Peterson the same way, where it's he has a lot of great games and he wins you a lot of games, but man, it really sucks when you have 2nd and 14, I think 6 times a game.
Fumbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Adrian could put the ball on the ground, and but Adrian was so damn exciting. Oh God.
Yeah. Oh no. Nobody's ever got me more excited about running the ball than Adrian Peterson. When he turned that corner, man, I loved it. It was like crack. Just watching him do it.
And did he ever get you with his handshake?
I shook his hand once, but
he got me twice.
I met him once too, and it feels like your hand's broken.
Oh, Hagan set me up, and I walked in there, and I put my hand out there, and he almost broke my fingers.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, I'm in a professional locker room. I can't cry." And then he got me again the second time. Now the third time, I saw it coming, and I shoved my hand in those. They're so far, and I squeezed back, and he looked at me like, "Yeah, my man learned. He caught on here." But yeah, Adrian, he was built of different materials than the rest of us. He was just different.
Well, speaking of someone else built of different materials, Dale, any specific Packer-related questions that you have for Bob?
Yeah, Bob, why do you think the Packers are so against Hard Knocks and going on Hard Knocks? Because they have not maybe publicly come out against being on it, but it's like in the wind that the Packers don't want to do it.
Oh, I don't know.
And maybe you can't answer.
I can. Lots of coaches think of Hard Knocks as an invasion, as a distraction. And it is. The first 2 seasons. Now, Brian Billick welcomed it. Brian would perform for the cameras. Brian would come into the interview trailer every day. And, one day he walked in and we didn't have a narrator for Hard Knocks. Liv Schreiber didn't start until the 2nd season. Liv Schreiber. The first year, the Ravens narrated Hard Knocks themselves, and I would ask questions designed for the editors to piece together the narrative and then cover it with B-roll and events that we would shoot, games and so forth. Brian was sitting there one day, and I kept asking the same question over and over, and Brian said, "Bob, why don't you just tell me what you want me to say, and I'll say it my own words, all right? Just tell me. I've got a meeting. I got to go. Just tell me what you want me to say." And when you get a coach like that who understands, hey, people are watching this, 3 weeks in, an LA Times columnist wrote, "This is a seminal moment in sports television history." And I thought, holy shit, it's talking about my show. My wife and I had her niece living with us while she was going to school. And she was, young, 22, said, "Uncle Bob, what do you think the best reality show on television is?" I thought about it for a second, and I said, "Mine." You don't get voted off the island, you lose your job. You lose your chance to play professional football. And that's real, So it was Hard Knocks was fun, but it's invasive. We're everywhere. And as cooperative as the Cowboys were a couple of times, they did not want to see their players getting cut. And they really, really kind of fought that. And I think that was one of the things that the Jets objected to this year. And I think I think Robert Saleh got his way. I've kind of heard things through the grapevine about that. Not sure, but that's a hard thing to watch a guy work through 6 weeks, come to the end of the fourth game, and then lose his chance to play pro football. But that was part of the original show. And that's why a lot of coaches don't want it, because it's invasive. These are strong emotions.
Yeah.
These are strong emotions, and exposing yourself to that is hard and can be a huge distraction for the guys who are on the fringe, for players who are going to make the team. I mean, one of the hard knocks, the first one I did after the first episode, I heard Shannon Sharp hollering from one end of the field, "Bob Angelo, get your ass down here!" So I walked out of that end of the field, and Shannon was there with Ray and Rod Woodson. They always did their calisthenics together. And I said, what's all this Tony Siragusa? It's Tony this, Tony that. And I said, you guys act like I have player repellent on my lens every time I get near you. Oh, okay. All right. So, I mean, after that, they loosened up, and because they could see that this was going to be a big deal and people were going to watch this show and respond to it. So, we got to see Shannon up close, and, he and Tony got into that. I mean, all that stuff that they did, I mean, they were keenly aware. And these are the veterans. They've made the team. They're not worried about their jobs. But those guys who are picked in the fourth round and who are struggling, because if they don't do this, what are they going to do? Those are the ones that I think that head coaches are trying to protect, and the NFLPA is trying to protect. And
I feel like the Dolphins were they're like made for a show like that.
Yeah, I like that show.
Yeah.
Mike
Like McDaniels is like meant to be he doesn't even seem real. He seems like a reality show hired him to be a coach.
Couldn't agree more. He's perfect for that. And the other guy who was great was Rex Ryan. I mean, Rex just didn't give a shit. Rex would say whatever he wanted to say whenever he wanted to say it.
Yeah, he's doing it on ESPN now.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love that. I mean, yeah, man, put it out there. He
like the Lions too. So
yeah,
it does. Any good? I would say any good Brett Favre stories.
I can't tell. I can't tell. Brett was interesting. He was very interesting. He was fun to be around. Just one of those guys who was relaxed before the game. He could walk out there and listen to the music coming over the PA system and just not be affected by anything, and then go out and throw 3 touchdowns in the first half. He could also throw some of the worst interceptions I've ever seen. I mean, one day he threw an interception against Detroit, and he was on his knees. Anybody remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was on his knees, and my phone rang Monday morning. I answered it. Hello, Bob Angelo? Yeah, this is Bill Walsh. I said, yeah. Who is this really? He said, no, this is Bill Walsh. I said, Coach, how are you? He said, I want to do a film about quarterbacking, and I want NFL Films to do it. And he built it all around what Brett Favre had done in that game against Detroit, throwing a ball from his knees. He said, what is this guy doing? Young men are watching him do this kind of crap, and they think this is okay, and it's not. I want to do a film, and I want to get my team together. I want to get Jerry and Joe and Roger Craig, and and I want to get them all on the field at the same time and show, how to build a passing offense, how to run an offense, how to play the quarterback position properly. And I said, well, I'll walk down the hall and talk to Steve Sable, and I did. And Steve said, why did Bill call you? And I said, because we're friends, Steve. And I think Steve was a little put off by that, but hey, what the hell?
And now there's a show called Quarterback.
Yes. Yeah. And I heard that was really good. I saw
amazing
the first episode, and it looked damn good. I think they had a hard time getting it put back together because a lot of quarterbacks said, nah, don't want to do that. Because again, very invasive. It takes away a lot of their private time, and the producers inevitably want to go places where players don't want them to go, like home with them. Some guys don't mind, hanging out with my kids, sure. Hanging out with my wife and kids, sure. going out to dinner. Some guys don't mind. Most do.
So, talk about Brett Favre, and this is for you, Dale. We'll get into some Jordan Love stuff here. On the game this past Sunday, they talked about the evolution of obviously, all the way to Love from Rodgers, but from Favre, and that just kind of that fall away pass, and talk about that, maybe what you saw with Favre, and then maybe even watching the game and like how, that could be passed down from, quarterback to quarterback.
Well, I think he also got that footwork from Rodgers, right? Or lack thereof, because Aaron Rodgers has an arm where he could throw it with no feet on the ground. Favre did too. What I'm hoping is that Jordan Love is going to be somewhere in the middle of those two guys, right? Because like Bob said, Brett Favre was throwing it to the wrong team almost as often as he was throwing it to the right team. Right? He'd throw 6 interceptions in a game and come back and throw 4 touchdowns the next. That was him, right? I see a lot of Jordan Love in Brett Favre also, though. There were a couple throws in this game against Chicago, the one that should have been picked off in the end zone. The one to Dobbs that could have been a touchdown, but also could have been picked off, and was probably a bad decision on his part. But you see that his touch is starting to develop. He's starting to put the ball in the right places. In the beginning of the season, he didn't. He threw a lot of errant throws or a lot of throws that weren't in the right places. It's hard to tell if that was the wide receivers running bad routes because there were rookie wide receivers and young guys who didn't know what they were doing. So it's hard to tell in the beginning of the season, was it a Jordan Love problem? Was it a rookie wide receiver problem, or a little bit of both? And by the end of the season, these young wide receivers are now running in the right places. Jordan Love is a better quarterback. Like, there's a lot of things going on that are positives for Jordan Love and the Packers. I think that he still needs to improve his footwork. There are times where just set your feet and throw the ball, right? We know that you can throw it jumping up in the air, but you don't have to. Just set your feet and throw a good pass out in the flat where it belongs. But the issue with that is, if you're so successful doing it the way you're doing it, why would you change?
Right. It looks pretty too.
I'll tell you what, look what happened in Buffalo. They changed offensive coordinators, and the reason they did that was they wanted somebody who could rein that guy in. And his interception ratio went way down. But the most important thing that they did for him was they made the game easier and fun for him. And now that's the team I wouldn't want to play if I were in the AFC. I wouldn't want to play the Buffalo Bills right now, because when Josh Allen is under control. Now, to your point, Sterling Sharp, I worked with Sterling and produced him for NFL Playbook on NFL Network when the network started back in the early 2000s. And Sterling, one day, I sat him down to interview him about the game where they beat the Lions on that last second throw. Yes. But Sterling told me, he said,
remember it.
Here's the thing about Brett. He kept both teams in the game.
Yeah.
He was just as likely to throw a ball to a lion or a bear as he was to throw it to me.
So did Eric Kramer that game. So
yeah, Eric Kramer. Yeah. I mean that they had him beat. Detroit had him beat, and then he just threw that ball down the sideline to Sharp. And Sterling's only thing was, I see it coming. I know. Okay, should I cradle it? Should I catch it in my hand? What should I do? I don't want.
That's how open he was.
Yeah,
I know. He said, I don't want
about 4 minutes before that ball came down.
Oh my fucking God! I'll never forget that.
And Sterling, but Brett kept both teams in the game. Well, he was fun. He was fun to be around.
Fuck Brett Favre.
Second that. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on, Bob. Where can everyone find your book? And tell us the name of your book and where everyone can find that, because some fantastic stories in it. I have it and enjoy it.
The book is called The NFL Off Camera. There we go. Oh, yeah. I actually got permission from the league to use NFL in the title and on the cover, and came with a pound of flesh, but that's okay. The NFL Off Camera. If you type that in online, just the NFL Off Camera, it'll come up on Amazon. Or if you type in www.bobangelo.com. It'll come up, and the book will be for sale there. And then Barnes and Noble's bookstores carry the book.
Oh,
And
all right.
it's sold out on Amazon a few times, and it was fun. I thought after writing it that promotion and publicity would be the easy parts, but man, I hate promotion and publicity. It's just, I love sitting and talking about pro football, but actually having to go there and to a bookstore or set things up. I mean, it's amazing how when I call, I mean, I've known Boomer Esiason forever, and I finally wrote Boomer a letter this year and said, Boomer, why have you forsaken me? I mean, come on, dude. I got you $10,000 to do this kid show that we did. I revamped Quarterback Challenge and made you the analyst. Another big payday for you. When we did the Golden Football Series back when Wilson did all those golden leather footballs for Super Bowl champions, I produced that piece. We got 11 minutes on Good Morning America on CBS. What the hell? I emailed you twice about my book. Get me on. And he said, Bob, we don't have authors on our show. He said their ratings poison. I said, oh, great. Thanks, Boom. That makes me feel so good. Ratings poison my ass,
Well, that's the cool thing about, like, obviously, plugging your book, but like, for people who don't read a ton like me, right?
I read, Mr. Angelo.
Well, they're short stories.
That's what I'm saying.
Buy your book tomorrow.
They're
Jesus
short
Christ,
stories.
There's some smart people up here. Y'all better read. What's wrong with y'all?
No. I was gonna say they're like really short
top.
stories, and obviously I've got more time on my hand now as a Bears fan not to watch football. But go ahead, Bob. You were gonna.
It's by design, because I figured pro football fans consume their football 3 to 3.5 hours at a time, watching their favorite team, and then if they've got a fantasy football team, that's another 3 to 5 hours every week, making your lineups, transactions, you're getting ready for the draft, deciding all that kind of stuff that goes on. The last thing they want is another long, boring narrative, from some guy, the memoirs of an NFL films producer. I thought, ooh, I wouldn't buy that. That's horrible. I mean, that sounds pompous. I wouldn't read that shit. But with this, I wrote short stories, and each one of these stories is about a player or a coach or a front office person or an owner in some cases, or a media person, all of whom I had personal interactions with, lengthy personal interactions. So you can't find this stuff if you do a Google search or online. It's just not there. These are interactions that I had with these folks, and that's what makes the stories worth interesting. For weeks I was calling it, before I went on Good Morning Football, I was calling it a toilet book, and my wife said, no, it's not a toilet book. I said, no, I could see guys taking this down the hall and just putting it next to the John, watching their favorite team. They run down the hall during a television timeout, read a story, come back, and right back into the game. And she said, just call it a coffee table book, would you please? But Kyle Brandt loved that when I said a toilet book.
Did you have to get everyone's approval to write stories?
No. There's nothing less libelous than the truth. And these stories are mine. These are interactions that I had with these people. So I wrote about them. Now, in one instance, I actually telephoned Chris Barr. Chris Barr was a kicker for the Raiders and several other teams. And his story I had to clear because there was an incident with a fake murder attempt staged by a policeman from a California town who came into Chris Barr's law office when we were there interviewing him. And all we could hear was, "Where's Chris Barr? Where the F is Chris Barr? I want that mother effer right now." And Chris turned ashen white. And I'm sitting there and, we looked at each other like, this isn't bullshit. So we hid in a closet behind his desk and we listened, and a gunshot went off and we smelled gunpowder. And so but my cameraman grabbed a fire extinguisher. I grabbed a broom or something like that. And we're standing by the door. And meanwhile, Chris is just standing there, ashen white. And then about 3 minutes later, we hear some laughter. and we opened the door. We got pumped. I mean, it was a cop who set
What the hell?
the guy running Chris's firm, the head of the office, set this whole thing up to scare the shit out of him, and he did. That one, I called Chris just to check it. He said, "Oh yeah, please publish it, please do, and put the cop's name in there if you will." I said, "No, I don't even remember it. I don't want to know it, but because I was concerned there about the legalities of that." But
Wow.
Lots of great
That's
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, as we close up, Shelby, where can everyone find you?
Shelby Tweten. SHELBY TWETEN.
Follow all that stuff. And Craig, where can everyone find you?
I will be at dailynorseman.com and on Twitter at GA_Skol, and probably soon reading that book in my bathroom.
Woo.
no shit.
Or
And where can everyone find you, Rev Trev? Or Rev Trev's not even here. Sorry. Where can everyone find you, Seventh Letter?
7th Letter 4 on Twitter X. Same OG on Instagram and Facebook. On top of the NFC North as of 2 weeks ago. And see you guys Sunday night. Enjoy the show.
Ooh.
How about the Cowboys?
I'm going for the Cowboys too. And in the playoffs as well. Craig, where can everyone find you?
AvgCheese, I think is who you're looking for.
oh yeah, just leave me in the. That's okay.
Dale.
It's all right. You can find me in the playoffs. Again,
I am all off today.
7th time in 10 years.
Yeah, so this Getsy Eberflus stuff has gotten me all out of whack. All this stuff. I am.
Eberflus is staying. He's fucked up over there.
It is, and I've been watching all this stuff, online today about the coaching. We're going to get into that next week, and obviously, hopefully, at least with the Packers doing some postmortem next week. Hopefully, Dale. Maybe not.
We'll see.
The end of NFC North this week.
Oh.
Listen to this guy, yo. You see these Viking fans, they back. We had a Viking representative on this show 50% of the year.
Yeah, when they lose, they don't show up. But obviously,
what do you mean we lost? We're here.
They showed up for Bob. We love Bob, so we showed up for
you guys came.
I got a job. Yeah. I miss you more. You don't miss me.
I do, yo. I do. I didn't want to rub it in this year.
Right.
I definitely
was on top. I didn't want to do that.
He's been on some crazy shit. This man over here.
Yeah, he's lost his mind.
It's
all unraveling right now. This is why he can't
I don't even do drugs, but you make me. I want to be in the other universe that you're living in.
Well, the universe of the Bears not beating the Packers and trying to flip the narrative, all that fun stuff. I like to have fun with the Packer fans online. All of you guys know that. Hopefully, the Bears are going to be turning around very soon. I'm not, too confident about that, but I am confident that each one of you, I appreciate all you guys coming on, and I'm confident that we're going to have a good show next week as well. Hopefully, the Packers aren't there.
I'm rooting for you, Seventh Letter.
I love you, Dale. I love Trevor, but just the Packers need to be done. They need to be done.
We ain't done.
Maybe not. Well, I am NFL Outdated. Thanks again, Bob Angelo. Everyone check out his book. Check out everybody's, social medias. And once again, this has been the Freezin for NFC North Podcast, episode 75. Let's have a good week. And thanks again, everybody.
Go Lions.
Yeah.